Oh.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey everybody, welcome to B2tv. As you noticed, that Brooke and I are not alone today, but I'm going to mute before my dog has a complete panic attack in the other room, and I will let Brooke take it away.
Hi, everybody. So we are here today with someone who I absolutely adore and had the pleasure of meeting. Well, I've actually stalked you for quite some time, but Chris and I had the pleasure of meeting last year at Social Media Marketing World over tacos and margaritas. I think is how we first came to have our first conversation. But if you don't know who Christopher Penn is, he is the co-founder of Trust Insights, and they are a data and analytics consulting company. And essentially what they do is really simple. They help people like me, marketers, understand their data and analytics better and have better results through that data. So yes, exactly. Carrie's making the heart symbol because she's our resident data nerd. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us today. We're really, really, really excited to have you and ready to have you explode our brains.
Well, thank you for having me.
You bet. So I think we want to start off with some softball-sized questions, if that's okay with you, and then we'll try to get into some of the scarier stuff as we go along. So I think first and foremost, right? Some people, even marketers, when they hear artificial intelligence or AI today, they still don't know what exactly we're talking about. So can you explain in layman's terms, so easy that someone like me could understand it, what you describe as AI?
So the formal definition of artificial intelligence is getting software, getting computers to be able to perform tasks which typically require human intelligence. So if you can understand the sounds coming out of my mouth and parsing that into words, that's called natural language processing, right? We do it, we learn it as babies. We have to teach machines explicitly how to process language. If you can see the image on screen and differentiate me from the background, you're using vision. And there's a whole field of computer vision. So it's getting machines to emulate human intelligence capabilities, things that humans can do. Now, AI is a super big, super broad term that can literally mean almost anything that fits that category of trying to get a machine to do what a human can do. So everything from robotics to process management to speech to composing music, all these things would fit under the umbrella of AI. Where marketers are and should be paying attention is in a subset of AI. And that subset is called machine learning, which is when we teach machines to learn. So traditional software, like your word processor or like an app on your phone, humans write the code and then the machine spits out data, right? It could be silly awards and Candy Crush. It could be word processing documents. It could be video from your phone. All these things are data that the app produces. Machine learning is the opposite. You feed a whole bunch of data to machine learning software, and it writes its own software. It designs software for itself that creates a certain type of outcome. And very broadly speaking, there's two big categories of machine learning. There's supervised and unsupervised. Supervised means I want to know something. I want to explain a result better. So let's say you're doing, for example, social media analytics, and you have the customer's revenue numbers, and you have all your social data. Because you're going to use supervised learning to say, okay, I want to know what data points, what factors, what dimensions lead to or have a relationship to that revenue number. And so you would use supervised learning techniques to find that. The second type is called unsupervised learning, where you don't know the outcome. You don't know what's happening. So a really good example of that is social conversation monitoring. When you put in like a hashtag, you don't know what people are saying. So you download tens or hundreds or thousands of conversations, and the machine kind of arranges them, says, hey, here's a group that seems to cluster together, and here's a group that seems to cluster together, and this one's talking about tacos, and this one's talking about, building walls and things, and this one's over here is talking about fish that evolved into birds, and whatever all these different conversations are, you didn't know that was going to be the outcome, but you needed the machine to sort it. So very broadly, those are sort of the two big categories. And when we're talking about AI for marketers, we are talking about marketing trying to do three things: faster, better, cheaper, right? So AI should help us do our work faster. There's no way any of us could read 1,000 tweets a second, right? There's no way any of us could read 1,000 tweets. Probably most of us would not want to read 1,000 tweets a day.
Yeah, no.
So acceleration. Second is accuracy, better quality data. Again, humans are prone to mistakes. And if you're living your life inside of spreadsheets, there's a good chance that you or someone in your chain of command is introducing errors along the way. And if we can automate and if we can improve the accuracy by taking that away from the humans and giving it to machines to do the same repetitive stuff, we'll get better accuracy. And the third is cheaper or more efficient, which means getting stuff that is repetitive and low value away from humans and getting it to the machines so that you, the human, can do more valuable things. So I remember at a company I used to work at, there was this one person on this one team, and they literally spent 8 hours a day, a full workday, copying and pasting stuff from one spreadsheet to another. And I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure we can replace this task with a machine. The person will be happier, the work will be better, and so on and so forth. So those are the three things that marketers should be looking for when they're looking to embark on using machine learning to make life better.
See, I love that you explained it that way, because the way that you're explaining it, the articles that we've been seeing, right, are like, AI is going to take your jobs, the robots are coming, it's like made into this like horrible, scary thing. And it's not, right? It's the three examples you just gave are really excellent, but it's also not completely removing the human, which obviously we know you have that mindset, because that's why you're going to be attending and speaking at the Hello conference, right? We're not removing the human from the intelligent tools loop, but we are helping the human make better decisions, be faster, and taking out maybe some of those low-level tasks so that we can be cheaper or more efficient.
Maybe. And I say maybe because there's a fascinating piece from a reporter who was at Davos last week, and they were privy to and talking to a number of CEOs and major movers and shakers. And the behind-the-scenes conversation for corporations is we want AI to remove as many jobs as possible because humans are expensive. One representative from a major bank said, our goal is to take thousands of jobs and turn them into dozens, because we'll have much better results, and we'll make our margins our quarterly numbers for the stock market will be so much better. A lot of CEOs at that event see AI as the golden ticket to hitting their quarterly numbers and shedding a lot of headcount. So one of the things that's important for all of us to understand is there are a number of things that you should be doing in your career to make your job more resistant to being taken by a machine. The more repetitive your job is, the more repetitive every task is, the easier it is to automate away. The more creative or collaborative or broad in scope your job is, the more difficult it is to automate. You can automate pieces of it away, but you can't automate the whole thing away.
Right.
Machines are really bad at things like general life experience. They're really bad at empathy. They're really bad at broad judgment. And so things that make you a great human are things that you will need to double down on. Machine algorithms have a very difficult time crossing disciplines. So if you are a Twitter ads manager, right? Mm-hmm. That's a super easy task to automate, right? It's almost automated as it is. But if you're a Twitter ads manager who is also good at data visualization and project management, you're super hard to replace, because you have multiple things you bring to the table. So the more we as people can build up our skills base across disciplines and network within our companies to have that, basically have a finger in every pie, or some crazy old baking analogy, that makes it harder for you to be replaced.
I love it. Okay, so good. So it's not as scary as we're making. It's scary, but it doesn't have to be scary if you're smart about it, right? And truly, I think this is just my viewpoint, but as someone who owns a company, for me, I love that answer, because it means the people who should be on the team will be making those smart decisions on how they can remain on the team. And the people who, don't want to go the extra mile are probably going to weed themselves out, because I'm going to be talking with smart people like Chris on how we can automate some of these tasks that right now we're paying humans to do, right?
Exactly. And at the very least, what you want to do is you want to be able to, even if you never change the amount of headcount you have, you want to use machine learning to scale.
Yes.
So we've had a conversation in the past, but I think it's worth bringing it here. The amount of time people spend on curating content can be hours per week. At Trust Insights, one of the things that we do is we built our own software to gather data, score it, analyze it, and then essentially pre-curate it, and then it just goes through one final pass of human eyes to go, okay, even though that was a popular article, it's on topic, it's still not something we feel comfortable publishing. But instead of spending 10 or 15 hours a week curating content for the week for our individual social accounts and for the company account, it's 5 to 10 minutes a week. So it is a great time saver, delivers quality, and frees us up to be able to do more valuable work.
Yes, and that is like case in point why social media marketers should be looking to AI, right? Because there are a lot of things that we have to touch, right? There's a lot of high touch tasks that we do that could be replaced by machines, not removing the human completely, because we still want Carrie to go in once that content is created and put our own spin on it, create our own creative leads. Maybe Carrie is a GIF queen, so she could be putting a GIF in there with the content that's created. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I can see it already. So I'm hoping that through this talk we can help other people maybe understand what we're talking about. So without giving away the kitchen sink or giving it away, I want you to kind of dive in a little bit to what you're going to be talking about and how this conversation is going to come about at the Hello Conference, which is March 28th for those of you who are listening in, and we would love for you to come. We'll post links down in the show notes. But Chris, what are you going to be telling everybody? Like, give us some of the knowledge bombs you're going to be dropping.
We're going to look at 5 practical applications of AI specific to social and digital marketers: mining, clustering, forecasting, driving, and within these applications, we want to look at the practicality of it. One of the things that's very challenging about the way people talk about AI is that they assume it's either a magic wand, which it's not, it's math, or they just assume it's a big black box and it just kind of does its thing, and then you come back and it's done. And none of those things are true. The first area we'll look at is text mining. So when given a large pile of unstructured data, text like what's in your emails, or people who've tweeted to you, or all your Facebook Messenger bot conversations, whatever the text, the body of text is, looking at ways that you can take out ideas from that, or topics or concepts, very, very quickly, and be able to use that to guide your decisions, to guide your content. Last week at Davos, we were not there. I was not there. I was sitting in this chair in my basement. But we're able to pull in and examine approximately 150,000 conversations a day and digest them down and understand, okay, this is what is, this is what's being talked about at Davos. These are the major themes. And do that, a single run of that data. Well, let me ask you, how long would it take you to go through 150,000 conversations, even with a full team?
Days.
I don't even want to think about it, quite honestly.
So the software can crunch through that and come up with a single page summary in about 6.5 minutes. So,
wow.
That's the first little rain blowing up emoji of the conversation right here. But also, Chris, this kind of plays into what you guys have been doing at Trust Insights, which the conferences that you guys are involved in, which is like all of them. So P.S. If you don't know Katie and Chris of Trust Insights, you will, because they speak at all of the major conferences. But you guys have been running these. You removed the word cloud words, and I forget what the word you used in replace was. But essentially, you're mining all these conversations around these events, and you're kind of telling the event organizers, like, hey, here are the main topics of conversation happening around your conference, which is like, okay, number 2, brain blowing up emoji, because like that's huge.
It is huge. So text mining it really is one of the principal uses of artificial intelligence for marketers, to be able to digest down things quickly and get a sense of what's in the box. Again, unsupervised learning. What's the thing when you're dealing with a massive amount of data, and you need to get it relatively quickly. If you are if you have a booth, for example, at IBM Think, which is coming up in 2 weeks, and you have a social media manager, and you want to participate in the conversation in a meaningful way and hopefully drive traffic to that booth, you want to be able to run this analysis while you're sitting, while you're standing at the booth. So, as soon as people leave the area and go to session, you start running your analysis, you start participating in conversations, you identify the conversation topics, and you publish any relevant content you have so that it's in alignment with what the zeitgeist of the moment is. There's no point in running a social analysis days after the event is over. You want to run it in the moment. Second application is called network graphing. Network graphing is where you digest down data and turn it into, and you identify relationships between things. The most common and most powerful application of this is, of course, with influencer identification. So at an event, one of the algorithms we use looks at who is most talked about. So not who does the most talking, not who's got the biggest number of followers, but who is everyone else talking about and looking to and referencing. And that gives you, again, a very good look at a conference, for example, or a major world event to see who is talking about things, where are things coming from. And again, you can digest down a tremendous amount of data and boil it down to say, okay, these are the 10 or 15 or 20 people that we need to make sure are on our radar. If you change algorithms and you use something like, instead of going from the who's most talked about to who is the hub at the center of most of as many networks as possible, who's like the mayor, that person who everybody knows, is that's you can do that to identify different types of influencers. The type of influencer is like, hey, you're at Social Media Marketing World, and you talk to this influencer, and they can get you a meeting with that person you really want to chat with, the CEO of that company or whatever. So you'd use this type of algorithm. So network graphing is the second application. It can be done. It's mostly, we use it a lot for social, but it can be used for any type of interaction where there are discrete entities. So there have been applications using academic papers. Who is the most referenced in publications, for example, in news events and things. So lots of different applications. The third technology is called clustering. And clustering it's a form of unsupervised learning. And essentially, when you take two numbers that are distinguished by data points. So, for example, keywords in SEO. Like you have a word, you can look how often it's searched and how difficult it is to rank for that term, or what the cost per click is of that term.
Okay, I'm tracking.
Yep, you could put it on like a piece of graph paper, a plot, right, and start plotting where each of these things are. You want to find out how these terms cluster together, which terms group up, cluster naturally, and figure out how do we identify this. So, if I were to take a 2x2 plot of the number of searches that a term gets, and then how difficult it is to rank for the term, I would want, as a marketer, I would want the terms that I rank for to get more and more difficult, right? I want them to be high volume, but I want to make it hard for competitors to rank for those terms. So I'm going to try and get as many links to those keywords as possible. On the other hand, when I look at my competitors, I want to identify the terms that are high volume but low difficulty. I want to take market share away from them and use this. And so I would use, for example, I was giving this example earlier today. I would use those terms to craft some of my social media content, and the content then that resonated well on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, guess what? That then gets ported to my website, and now I can start taking away market share on the search side from people, but using social media as a proving point, like, yep, that really is the popular thing. So clustering is a very powerful technique. You
and I talked about this, right? I think, I won't mention the client, but it was a wine client. Am I on the right track here? We talked after Social Media Marketing World, and you guys had showed me some powerful things. Towards some advertising, which didn't come to fruition, but is that what we're talking about here?
So that was a very primitive look at it. A lot has changed in the last year. The techniques now are much more refined, much more actionable. So that's a super important thing. So clustering is the third technique, and we'll dig into more of that at the Hello conference. The fourth one is driver analysis, or understanding is supervised learning. It's understanding what leads to something else. So we talked about this early on in our conversation about supervised learning. Given a set of numbers, and a bunch of other numbers that may or may not lead to that. What combination of variables have the highest mathematical relationship to the outcome you care about? So imagine taking all of your social media data from, Sprinkler or Sprout Social or Talkwalker or whoever. You have like 100 columns of a spreadsheet, likes on Facebook and wow and
reactions.
all the reactions. And you have that from Twitter, you have LinkedIn and Pinterest and YouTube, and you have all these columns of a spreadsheet. And then you have your web analytics, time on page, bounce rate, exit rate, number of visits, and so on. And then you have your marketing automation software, lead score, date, number of touches and things. And then you have your CRM data, sales rep assigned, deal stage, all this stuff. Now imagine, you've got spreadsheets about 10,000 columns wide, right?
It's a monster we're talking about.
If a closed won deal or the value of the closed won deal is the target for driver analysis, a machine can go through and mix and match every column with every other column and understand after several million tries, these 5 or 10 or 12 columns are the ones that matter the most. So it may be Facebook post reach plus email touches plus lead score leads to revenue. And doing that type of analysis gets you at what are your actual KPIs. So one of my minor pet peeves in life is the number of people who use the term KPI without having any idea what it means. It's key performance indicator, which means that if you're looking at a number that and you're not either going to get promoted or fired, it's not a KPI, right? The only numbers that are KPIs are the ones that you get fired for.
Right. Well, we try to tell our clients the KPIs that we're documenting or tracking are tied to your business goals. This social media activity must be tied to the business goal, which is the KPI. Yeah. But
exactly.
You're right. A lot of people, I like that analogy. It's simpler. Is it going to get me hired or fired?
Exactly. Now, when you do this type of driver analysis, that may surface either individual or more likely groups of metrics that function as a KPI. Like if this group of numbers together goes down, you're in trouble. And by being able to monitor that all the way up the marketing operations funnel, you can detect trouble sooner rather than later, intercept it, and hopefully fix the problem. If you're fixing stuff at the top of the funnel operationally or early in the customer journey, you can keep that ripple effect from spreading down to your sales team and stuff. So driver analysis is super important. And the last example, and the one that I think is probably the easiest for marketers to grok right out of the box, is time series forecasting, which is what's likely to happen. So given we use a lot of search data for this because search data is really reliable. It's very clean and doesn't require access to the client's data, which is super helpful. Given a whole bunch of search terms, when over the next 52 weeks will a term spike? So the example that we give often is when do people search? What are people doing when they search for the phrase out of office template or out of office Outlook? What are they looking for? They're looking for a setting in their email client so they can go on vacation, right?
Yes.
Which means that if you can forecast when by week that term is going to be the most used, as a marketer, don't send email that week. Don't blow your ad budget that week. Don't do a major campaign launch that week. Nobody's home. Nobody's reading. So by using time series forecasts, you can say, okay, I'm going to time my launch campaigns for when people are searching the least for that phrase, because would be a logical time to do that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's such a great idea. Wait, so conversely, really quick, if I were a vacation company, if I was like VRBO, would I be looking for those times, peak times, and that's when I want to hit with my
No, because people are on vacation. Okay. You want to be thinking, when are people searching for cheap flights to Orlando or cheap flights to Vegas or whatever? Because they're at the the sort of the consideration and evaluation phase of the customer journey. By the time someone's looking for out of office, they're already gone.
They've already made the plans. Okay, this is again number 3.
Yep. So one of the things that we've changed recently is digesting down this data into one-page forecasts that are 4 weeks long. It says that uses our 4 Ps content guide, which is plan, prep, publish, and promote. It's a 4-stage journey for content that's 4 weeks long. And what we've done is we've isolated sort of the top 3 or 4 terms that are going to occur each week for the next 4 weeks. So you can start now starting to plan what your content in 4 weeks is going to be. You write the content, and then the content that's 3 weeks out, you're starting to actually draft it and build it and so on and so forth. Stuff that's 2 weeks out, you publish it, give Google and the other search engines a chance to index it. And then the week of, you promote it. You put it on social, you run ads on it and things like that. And by having this repeated one-page forecast that gets emailed to you every single week, you're like, oh, now I don't have to guess what should I be blogging about, right? I don't have to, and your editorial team and your management team can all be literally on the same page going, okay, this is our plan over the next 4 weeks. And it's just like a treadmill. The next week's forecast comes out, stuff moves down, there's new stuff to start planning, and your content marketing can be a lot less stressful, and it's timed with what people are searching for. So you're in the market when people are thinking about what it is that you're publishing. So time series forecasting is super valuable and very, very powerful.
I love it. My wheels are already spinning. Carrie, did you want to? I feel like you've been like just so.
I've just been like that GIF, and I don't know if it's the GIF of the hard eyes or it's the Johnny number 5, give me more input, or it's the feed me Seymour GIF. I don't know which one of those I am right now, but I was literally watching the whole thing like this, so I was so glad to be off camera because it's just too exciting.
Any like questions that popped up before we?
Yeah, mine, and it's kind of my favorite sort of weird conversation to have with clients because I get to swear in it. But my big analytics question is pulling out sentiment, because there is such a difference between, like, if I'm reading a tweet, I know it's what this is shit and this is the shit. I know the difference because I'm a human and I can read that. It's getting machines to read that. That's what I want to see. Like that's the report I want to pull, like the legitimate sentiment. I want to be able to say, people are saying this about you and here's why. And so does George.
So the reason why a lot of sentiment analysis automated is terrible is because the vendors of many social media marketing tools, not all, but many of them, are using a very simplistic approach. It's called a bag of words approach, meaning like, hey, here's a bundle of words, and if this word appears in it, it must be bad, right? There's a very famous sentiment library called AFIN that is basically that. It's a series of 3,000 words that were tagged, -5 to +5. And much of the correct criticism about the bag of words approach is that it is context independent. So to your point, shit versus the shit are two different concepts that share the same stem word. And as a result, they'll be treated identically in a bag of words approach. What's happening now in machine learning, and particularly in deep learning, is that we're introducing more and better models for more advanced sentiment analysis to be able to see not just a word, but a word in relationship to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words around it. So these larger scales and scoped things, so that the machines can understand these are how these terms are semantically related, a technique called vectorization. Deep learning is advancing a lot of this, especially at very large volumes. The one area which is still really eluding machines because there's no tone, there's no mathematical representation of tone, is sarcasm. Machines still cannot effectively do sarcasm. They cannot tell the difference between I love this and oh, I love this. Right?
Well, I think we as humans still sometimes, depending on the person, right, and how well we know them, it's hard for us to detect sarcasm as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, in an email from me, it's like a 75% chance what I said was sarcastic. But if I had never met you before and I just typed that out and you can't hear the inflection in my voice, you might not know.
Exactly. So the reason why you're running so much trouble is because companies are using very old techniques. And the reason they're using those techniques is because they're computationally very cheap. Vectorization and deep learning are very computationally expensive operations. They take lots of big hardware a long time to run, comparatively. And I mean a long time in that if it may take like a deep learning model 2 or 3 minutes to process a text. Well, guess what? Everyone in the world is used to tapping a button on their phone and getting an instant result. And so 2 or 3 minutes is unacceptable. But the trade-off is we get terrible data instead. So right. The solution to that is Well, the solution to that is either you find a vendor that uses the more advanced technology with an understanding that's probably going to be batch-based rather than real-time, or if you have the aptitude, the attitude, and the technical capability, build your own software on top of a social monitoring tool to do the processing yourself. That's what we do. We use a company called Talkwalker, which is, they're a great company, and we export their data. We very rarely use much of the tool itself. We use them as a data source, and then we run our own machine learning software that we've customized on top of it to do topic modeling and influencer mapping and stuff. Because we like to be. I personally, especially, like to be able to control what the algorithm is doing.
Yeah. What I'm hearing you say, Chris, is call Chris. He can help you. So I know we have to wrap it up. We've run out of time. And, if you haven't already figured out why you need to come see Chris at the Hello conference, Chris, in your really short synopsis, why should people come to the Hello conference and at all, but also to see you speak and rub elbows with someone of your caliber?
It's going to be an interesting contrast. So Mark Schaefer and I have been friends for a really long time, and I love him, and he's a wonderful human being. And he is going to present on sort of, making marketing more human, the Marketing Rebellion, his new book. And I'm going to present the opposite approach of resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. Sort of the Borg approach. But the two approaches use different methods to get to the same thing. We all want marketing that's better, faster, and cheaper. Mm-hmm. The question is, what's the machine going to handle? What's the human going to handle? And I think the two of us together will offer complementary, occasionally contrasting approaches towards these are the things that you need to double down on as a human. And then these are the things that you'd better have a machine on your side handling, because if you don't, you're going to be out of a job.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and for business owners like yourself and myself, scaling, right? Aren't we always talking about scaling? And this is how I think we answer that question of how to scale, is using machines to help get there. So anyhow, I know we're out of time, but Chris, thank you so much. You know how much we love you, and we just, if people don't watch this and figure out why they should come and see you in person, then fine. So thanks again for being here. We'll tweet out all the links and where to find Chris, where to find Trust Insights. All of that will be down below. Drink. So just check it out down there, and just reach out to us if you need to get a hold of Christopher. We'll put you guys in touch.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.